Told y'all boys, man. I told you exactly how the fight was gonna go. I told you that Morrell had more to worry about than David Benavidez had to worry about. And the difference is, again, everybody keeps falling for the fact that Cuban fighters have a decorated amateur background. Eastern European fighters have a highly decorated amateur background, so they're celebrated as, they're celebrated in their fast track. But a lot of that has to do with the fact that they come from countries that are, historically, you got Cuba with the fact that they didn't even let the relations between Cuba and the United States made boxing difficult. It made it difficult for boxers to become professionals. They had to defect from the country. You know what I mean? It's like a North Korean fighter fighting in the U.S. You know what I mean? It's difficult because the program, yes, you can fight in the amateurs and represent the country because, they make a lot of money from doing that as a country, even though the government is corrupt and the people don't necessarily see that money. But it's almost as if they're like, hey, you know what? We know you come from this place. It's fucked up. We're going to give you an opportunity to make some money, and we're going to make some money off of you, and we're going to market you and celebrate you as this and as that. But remember, I told you, Ugas got destroyed by Errol Spence Jr. Now you got David Morrell got dominated the whole fight, pressed and socked out and worked the whole night. It doesn't matter that he didn't go down. All right. It doesn't matter that he was eating a lot of punches. The thing about it is this, right? And there were allegations that, Morrell could potentially be on the juice. If you know about Cuba and you know about Russia, then you know exactly what I'm talking about when I say the juice. But, in their Olympic history, dating all the way back, the 80s and everything in between. And the thing is this. He just sat there and took a punishment, a beating. David Morrell. He landed a few punches, but in the punches that he did land, a lot of the time David Benavidez, he was catching those punches and he was defending himself. And I told you that David Benavidez's defense is underrated. Also, when you fight a southpaw and you know how to square yourself correctly, you can shut a lot of their shit down because you make it to where you're basically able to cut the angles off that some of those straight left hands would be coming from, and you get to use your jab. And that's what David Benavidez did. He got into and fought in his squared. He was more squared. He used what we call kickstand footwork. He used his kickstand and was just lighting him up with jabs. And he was still like lacing him with straight right hands through the guard. He was socking him out with just raw strength and ability, socking him out. And then he was on the inside, torching him, manipulating his guard, socking through it, feinting to the body, uppercutting. He was picking all the correct punches. And the thing about David Benavidez is when he makes the adjustments, when he starts picking the right shots and he gets used to the angles you like to dip to for safety, there's no running from him. There's no running from him. He did everything he was supposed to do. And he showed that he can also box. He was outboxing him. He was out jabbing him. His footwork made it to where, see, when you fight in that squared stance and you pull out at that angle, but you pull out at that angle, it's harder for the left hand to catch you while you're on the way out. And that's another look that he showed David Morrell. You know what I mean? David Morrell was outmatched. And then the thing that surprised him, because he took him to pro school, you can have the boxing ability, the fast feet. Mind you, David Morrell's feet had never really been fast. But when he's dug to that body, the way that pros dig to the body versus the way amateurs dig to the body, most times amateurs dig to the body to open up the face. You know what I mean? So you get a lot of touch, hey, you know what I mean? Or, touch, hey. Or, you know what I mean? If you're going to jab to the body or stab with the right hand to the body, like a lot of it, the time they kind of reach out to go get it because they know in amateur boxing, they're going to hop back. You don't expect to get countered with a straight right or a check hook over your body shot because amateurs is not about damage. It's about points. It's about who's out touching who. So he went into this fight thinking that at some point the storm has got to be over with and I'm going to be able to work the way I normally work. But the thing about Cuban fighters is when you put them on their back foot, they don't have an answer. Look at Ugas. He ended up just shelling up, eating uppercuts from Errol Spence all day, post car crash. David Morrell, when it came to the pressure, and he pressured him at range, he did what Tyson Fury should have done, where he uses his straight punches with force, jab, with force, using his max level reach. Whenever David Morrell tries to crash out, he has a good step back game. And he not only does he step back and throw the check hook, because that is a move a lot of amateurs do. And did you see David Morrell try to adjust, but he was stepping back and turning his entire body into that right hook. And that was catching David Morrell off guard. Then after that, he would follow up to the body. He was digging into the liver side all day. He had David Morrell's elbows tucked because of those shots to the ribs and to the liver all day. That's all day long. You know what I mean? Dig into the body in a way that pros do. You seeing the difference between School of the Amateur versus School of the Pros. School of Hard Knocks versus Silver, not necessarily Silver Spoon, meaning that he had money, but Silver Spoon meaning that the boxing program David Morrell comes from is an esteemed boxing program, a world-renowned boxing program. Everybody understands Cuba, Russia, you know what I mean? Even just parts of Eastern Europe in general, and Cuba, they all have an esteemed and highly praised boxing background with with the amateurs in the Olympics. But the thing about it is this: you can only do so much dancing when you're getting your body dug in like that, pause, and those liver shots are landing clean. I knew in the very beginning of the fight when David Morrell, right, they said that he had power. But the thing about David Morrell is that, yes, although he does have power, you have to remember the people that he was fighting in the pros leading up to him wanting Benavidez, they were punching bags. They weren't moving like how Benavidez was moving, and they definitely weren't punching back, nor were they punching first, because they also had that same fear and respect for the Cuban boxing, the school of Cuban boxing. I've always been I've always believed that when it comes to the school of Cuban boxing, a lot of it is it is valid in the amateurs, but the amateur style versus the pro style, so different. And then not only that, you have to adapt to the pro style. But at the same time, how you punch, right? Turning your punches over. You have to turn every punch over in the pros because it's all about doing damage when you landing. And also you can't, in the amateurs, a lot of guys, they get their rhythm and then they just, they hit they hit right here. But it's not on in a way that's like, we turning it over, we turning it over, we turning it over. No, it's boom. You know what I mean? You're throwing your slap hooks. You're throwing your right. You know what I mean? You're sitting back. You're not sitting down on your punches the way that you need to. And you see how David Benavidez, those pauses in between his work when he's picking an angle, he's shifting. When he's digging like that, it makes David Morrell, that emptiness is still part of his rhythm. It makes him have to guess where the next punch might be coming from. Next thing you know, his guard gets pushed down. Right hand goes through. Liver shot goes through. Uppercut goes through. And then as soon as you get through to come back, he's defending himself. And then he's back on his jab again. All from being square, which they say, yes, being square is not necessarily good, but it's not good to get squared by somebody's jab or a 1-2. But if you square yourself in against a southpaw, which if you have good defense with your hands and you have good angles as far as like getting out of their foot speed, and you can get to those angles and you can use your kickstand correctly. Like if you have the IQ to use your kickstand correctly, you can square yourself up. It's not the end of the world. If you do square yourself up, you just have to be prepared to counter properly. Like you're squaring yourself up because you're looking to counter, you're looking to punch with both hands. You're looking to be first with both hands. You can't square yourself up and box like you normally would box. Usually people go in and out of being square, but David Benavidez, he fights square because he lets his hands go. That's why it works for him, because he's a puncher. But not only is he a puncher, he's a boxer puncher. And his experience fighting the Golovkins of the world, the Kelly Pavliks of the world, and honestly working his way up to fighting Bivol at, I want to say 18 years old, sparring Bivol. All of that, it developed him because he got a little bit of exposure to all different styles from around the world. People with esteemed boxing backgrounds, right? It built him up to be able to dismantle a guy like David Morrell. Now, if David Morrell is no pushover, he's going to give a lot of light heavyweights issues. But at the same time, now when it comes time for him to step up, to fight people who can box too and who have power too, who have a chin as well. Champions or former champions. That's where he's going to struggle until he's able to get his pro training wheels off. I believe that his next move, he needs to fight at where his pro experience level is, which is he's still and he's still being built. He took a hit to his stock a little bit, but not much, because he lost to Benavidez. You know what I mean? He's 30-0 now. He's been fighting since he was 3 years old. You can't be mad at him, and he didn't get knocked out. So again, I told you exactly how this fight was gonna go and why. And I think that David Morrell's next move is to continue to fight veteran opponents who can give him decent work, but who are not former champions or champions yet. It's too soon. He doesn't have that. This is not necessarily that come forward in him, but he doesn't have those gears. He hasn't built that yet. You know what I mean? He only got a 4-speed. He needs a 6-speed, a 7-speed. He needs that because he got pushed back and the fight didn't develop the way he thought it was going to develop. He wasn't prepared to fight at that pace. He didn't have answers. He didn't have the ability to make an adjustment at that high speed, of which is what amateurs do well in the pros, like esteemed amateurs. But most of the time, you have to. It depends on how much power you have. You have to be able to sit down. And his coach coached Hector Luis Garcia as well, and he got walked down as well by Gervonta Tank Davis, and he got outpunched, outpowered. His fighters, they seem to have that same issue where they end up they don't have those same gears. They don't have, he has the boxing, but they don't have those gears of like, okay, I'm going to take this, I'm about to subdue this dog that's in front of me. They don't have that. They usually lose to the dogs. So we'll see what's next for David Morrell. It's not over yet, but people who were counting out David Benavidez because of the Cuban background and because, all that type of stuff, I believe that you bought into the hype too soon and put too much stock on his amateur career when amateurs has nothing to do with what the pros is about. It just doesn't. And we see it time and time again. So with that being said, catch you on the next video, man. It was a great fight. Honestly, all the fights were really great. Esau Cruz's fight was crazy. What he fought against Fierro, crazy fight. Stephen Fulton cooked with the Timbs. I gotta call him working man Fulton now because he got the Timbs and the jean shorts on, and he just caught him a cool little fade. Definitely showed that his levels above Brandon Figueroa, and he learned a lot from that Inoue fight for sure. Definitely, you know what I mean. I hope he does well at his new weight class, officially being a featherweight. I look forward to seeing Keyshawn fight, Junto Nakatani fight. I look forward to seeing these fights. Y'all leave your thoughts in the comment section. I'll catch you on the next video. I'm gone.